How are things in your neck of the woods?
It's okay. Now you're down in North Carolina, correct?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Uh, yeah, there's probably a difference between North Carolina and South Carolina. We just call them the Carolinas.
I understand.
Anything below Pennsylvania is the Carolinas to us.
I
So
got it. Anything above North Carolina is Yankees.
is Yankees. Yeah, I get it. So I'm excited to talk to you. And I want to bounce all over the place. As I mentioned in my email, I came across your first book on I was on a business trip and I had it on Audible, and probably two chapters in, I thought to myself, why have I never heard of this guy?
Thank you. That's kind.
Because usually writers, I'm going to pump you up a little bit before I start asking you questions. Writers of your caliber don't just appear. They usually develop. You read an article, you read a review, but you just popped up, and this book has been around for a while. When did it come out? 2011?
2008.
2008. So it's been a
Yeah.
while. It's been around for a while. There's three challenges from my perspective as a reader in writing humor. A, you have to be funny. B, you have to be funny on paper, which is not always easy. And then the third is you actually have something to say.
Right.
And you've got all three of those. So before I go into my list of questions for you, I wanted to give you a chance to do a quick intro about you.
Sure. Let's see. I was an English major at Auburn, so that was when I started writing in earnest. Went into the Marine Corps in 4 years, did most of my writing in crayon at that point. And then I went to work for an ad agency, at which time I would say I transitioned into a professional writer and working on the creative side. And, when you write all day, you begin to develop your voice. I thought, I enjoy writing ads and writing brochures. I'm going to start writing at home after work. So the first book that I wrote was about a trip me and some friends took to Europe, and it was pretty awful. I had several friends that thought it was hilarious. And then I decided I was going to write a humorous history of the United States. And I wrote that and did the usual torturous submit to agents. You get back the photocopy of a photocopy that says, we don't have the time to put in to your script that
our opinion is completely submissive. Yeah, that's my favorite one. Yeah.
So that humorous history book actually landed me an agent eventually. And he tried to sell it and nobody bit, just one of those things. He gave it his best. Publishing industry just wasn't interested. So I went on to write a couple of more books. I decided to become a humorist based on my love for PJ O'Rourke. And I said, okay, I need to learn how he writes and what it is that makes him so funny. And I've probably read all of his books 4 or 5 times to get the tempo right, and the use of analogies and the pacing that goes into the prose, the way it'll flow, and then hit you with something you didn't expect. And so I eventually finished the book. You want fries with that? Sent it to my agent, and he loved it, and sold it to the first outfit that he submitted it to.
Which is pretty unheard of. I mean, you do realize that's pretty unheard of. That for him, the first store that he knocks on, he gets it. Come on in.
That is my understanding.
Yeah.
most first books, they print 5,000 copies. And they had a great deal of confidence in Fry's, and they printed 20,000 hardbacks. So yeah, they felt like it had legs.
What's interesting about this is you say PJ O'Rourke, and I've read some PJ O'Rourke, but I as soon as I started reading you, I thought Dave Barry. You have a very Dave Barry style, and the challenge with that is you can mess up copying Dave Barry so easily, so easily, and you don't do that. And I think I know what you're saying as far as leading you down. In fact, there's something in your new book I read last night where you just a couple sentence, you have me going this way, and then you go pow, and Dave Barry does it. Now maybe Dave Barry copied it from PJ O'Rourke, but there are many writers that think they can do it, they can't do it. So I am a book snob, and I'm here to say that you've pulled it off.
Well, thank you.
So I want to talk about. I'm a big fan in your style of writing, but I'm also a bigger fan of what you have to say. So I want to talk about the Fry's book, and give us a quick premise on what that's about, and then I'll throw some questions at you.
The long and the short of it is, my wife and I had a couple of investments that went south, badly south, and I had already left the agency, and the checkbook was empty. Is the bottom line. Have you ever heard of Dave Ramsey?
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. Dave Ramsey has, for as long as I've ever listened to him, his big advice is deliver pizzas, pizzas. And so I'm thinking, okay, these pizza guys must make $100 a night.
Right.
And so I said, well, Heidi, I'm going to deliver pizzas for a while. And she said, well, you can't do that. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna, because, Dave Ramsey. Right. So I went out and did it. And as you know, from reading the book, it took me about 3 days to realize that you're delivering pizzas to get tips so you can put gas in your money so you can go back and deliver pizzas. And round and round and round it goes. And I thought to myself, there were guys that had been there for 3 years delivering pizzas. And why had that never dawned on them? All good guys. And so then I got to think, well, maybe it's because of my years in business and understanding net and gross and the cost value of time and expenses. I mean, the IRS, the cheapest company, the outfit in the world, gives you 50 cents a mile for driving your car. And so as I thought about it, I thought, I wonder what it would be like to take this career of white collar business knowledge and enter into minimum wage jobs, and then see what I saw through the eyes of an adult. Not like when I was a kid and did these things. So I wrote the chapter about the delivering pizza, and I gave it to my brother, who had run a Domino's when he was in Clemson University. And he thought it was the funniest thing he'd ever read. He was like, I can see myself there. I can visualize these things that you're talking about. So I felt like, okay, well, I'm on the right track. I called up my agent. I still had him representing me, although he hadn't shown interest in my other manuscripts. I told him about the idea, and I sent him the chapter. And he said, oh man, this is great. The idea of you want fries with that, a white collar burnout experiences life at minimum wage. This is going to be great. And so I said, okay, dude, so you can sell it? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, who are you going to pitch it to? He said, well, you got to write it first.
Right.
I'm like, well, wait, hold on. This isn't how it is in the movies. I mean, it's a good idea, and in the movies, people get advances and blah, blah, blah. And after he got through laughing, he said, all right, well, anyway, when you get through writing it, send it to me.
Right.
And so it took about a year, and sent it to him, and he was pleased.
Mm-hmm. Now, what's interesting is, and you didn't say this in the book, but you said it on an interview that I watched with you, that you had a personal rule that if you ran it, because you did all this close to your home,
yeah,
all except the cowboy thing, and that if you ran into someone, you couldn't tell them that you were working on a book. Right. And the irony is, I don't think I would have anyway, because nobody would have believed it. Right. So you showed up at your lawyer friend with the pizza thing that you were talking about. Oh, it's okay. I'm working on this big, but yeah, sure. Yeah, sure you are. Sure you
Very
are.
True. He's the managing partner of one of the biggest firms in Charleston right now.
Good.
And so he was a rising star back then, and I would imagine it probably shocked him. You know, I had
now, have you ran into him since the book has been out?
You know, no, I didn't, because he stiffed me on the tip, and so
I would have gone way. I would have walked right back. That would have been the first of the free 10 that I got from the publisher that I would have left at his door.
Okay.
You do a great job of explaining, maybe beating us up a little bit on how our problems in the United States are not the same as our counterpart in a different country. You do a real good job of, our job of my boss doesn't appreciate me is not the same as my counterpart in another part of the country who's going, gosh, I hope I eat today.
Right.
Or
right.
I hope my kids aren't killed today.
Right.
You do a good job of that, but you still allow us to seek that fulfillment. You still are seeking that fulfillment.
Sure.
So you don't bash us and you don't say shame on you, but you do, as soon as you start to get deep, you bring it back into perspective. And I think that's important.
Yeah. There's no reason to bash this luxury that is America.
Right.
Our poor live like the upper middle class in 2/3 of the world.
Right.
But I mean, God blessed us, right? You can say blessed, which I say, you can say lucky, you can say it was a miracle, but to be born in the United States is just so laughably easy. But there's no reason to harp on that. You just need people need to bear in mind that that having slow internet service when you're in Death Valley on your smartphone is really not that big of a deal.
I can't remember who. I wish I could give credit to the comedian that said this. I can't. Maybe you'll know. I can't remember who it was. But there was one comedian that had a whole bit about that very thing. And he's going, "Oh my, that's the cell service on my, phone is so slow." And he's going, "It give it a chance to get back from space. It had to go to space." And then it had to come back down. So it takes a few seconds for it to get back in space. Or you're on an airplane trip and you go, "We were on the tarmac for 45 minutes. You go, you're in a chair and you get to sit there and fly. You don't have to do anything. You just sit in a comfortable chair. They'll bring you nuts and you can fly."
So true.
But we're so, and it just hits, we're so spoiled. 45 minutes to wait for my trip. But that's what we do. That's what we do. And we do it all the time. And he goes, what's funny is he goes, "I hate Verizon." He goes, "Then create your own network. Go create your own multi-billion-dollar network."
I've heard him. The same thing about.
I can't remember who it is, but he was spot on.
Well, his act is, if a listener wanted to track him down, his act is "Everything is Fabulous."
Okay.
And he goes back and he's on the airplane. He's like, "Yeah, that's really tough on you. Did it occur to you that you're in a silver tube going 500 miles an hour to space?"
Yeah, and you can nap if you want to. You don't have to do anything. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, everything is pretty fabulous here in the States. And actually, you'll find that that in the second book, Dispatches, that you have right now, that's an overlying theme. Everything is fabulous. If everything is fabulous, why are we so, as a people, unhappy?
Why is that?
There are a few things. One is that it took however many thousands of years to get to the point where the telephone existed, right? If you go back to 1920 and look at 2020, the acceleration of technology and the reduction of work and the amount of leisure time, I don't think we're wired for that, right? And whether we like it or not, we covet things, right? Now, my wife and I have downsized, which we love. We live in this tiny little condo. But, you know, if you go out on a friend's boat, right, you're thinking to yourself, I wish this was my boat. Or, you know, you go to a friend's country place and you say, you know, I wish this was mine. Here, you're thinking to yourself, here's what I would do. But in keeping with your concept of rewiring oneself, you can rewire yourself, because nobody says that you have to go to your friend's country place. If it's going to be a negative experience for you, and you're not able to go there and just enjoy it, why go? Move ourselves from these situations where we find ourselves coveting things and replace them with experiences. Think about this. People go to St. Croix to sit on the beach and marvel at the sunset, right? People in a trailer park have the same sunset.
Yep.
Right? So why do I save up money all year to go see sunset in a place where it's setting like that where I live? And the list of that goes on and on and on. But I think that your idea of rewiring thinking, you can do it, and Americans need to do it.
And you know what's interesting about your boat analogy is, and I catch myself doing it all the time, and I know that a lot of people other do it is let's say you go on that boat and you go, wow, this is a big boat, this is an expensive boat, this is a very nice boat. But then the defense mode clicks in, all that code that you've wired and fixed, and it goes, yeah, it's a big boat, but did you see the way he snapped at his kids? It's a big boat, but he's got to be 30 pounds overweight. It's a big boat, but I've got more hair than he does. and that justifies going, okay, he's got a big boat, but I never talk to my wife that way.
Right.
And that's how we and then we file it away and we're good. Instead of saying, you know, what does he get out of the boat? And what can I get out of other things like the boat? Maybe I can get the same thing, you know, the analogy of looking at the sunset from the trailer park. What does he get out of this? And what can I get in my means out of it? What's the magic code there?
I couldn't agree more. And one of the things, someone I met in Spain, and I write about this in the book, I was talking to him and he's like, okay, if you had your dream car, what would you get? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, a Ferrari. And he said, I had a Ferrari. It was nothing but a pain in the ass. You know, you could cure world hunger for what it cost to get an oil change. I hated it. I couldn't wait to get rid of it. What else? You know, and I'm like, oh, you know, I'd like to have a plantation. Right. Have you ever owned a plantation? No, I did. It was a freaking nightmare. And he went into all that entails. And so I got to drilling down. And at the end of the day, I believe the secret of happiness is contentment. And you can make the decision to be content with what you have.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't feel right at first, then fake it till you make it. But when you reach the point where you can look around and say, I have enough,
Mm.
and enough is enough.
And I think there's a difference between contentment and complacency, right? So
Absolutely.
just because you're content doesn't mean you're not doing things and you're not working for your family and work for yourself and work for, it doesn't mean that you've stopped. It just means that you're content.
Absolutely.
Yep, I get it.
And if you get joy out of working 70 hours a week to become a big wig in a business, have at it. You know, that's great. You just, yeah, complacency and contentment are almost opposites. And you know, we think in terms of is the opposite of happiness unhappiness, and you know, and back and forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've come to the conclusion that that doesn't work. The opposite of unhappiness is contentment.
Mm-hmm.
And once a person achieves that sort of contentment, then happiness is inevitable. Yeah, I have come to believe. I was raised, I'm sure you were raised, with traditional morals and values, right? You do what's right. And I've tried to live my life by that. But what I have also come to understand is the truth of the saying, nice guys finish last. Because we do, because there are sociopathic businesses and businessmen that are lying to your face. And you know, I'm a Southern boy. You don't. It's just so not in my nature to hear another person talking to me and think maybe he's lying, maybe he's trying to manipulate.
Right.
And yeah, you don't become the CEO of a Fortune 100 company without having some sociopathic tendencies. I mean, you destroyed a lot of lives on your way up.
And it filters down. This just reminded me. We recently bought my wife a new car. We were going to go out. She wanted a Honda Pilot. We were going to get her a Honda Pilot. So we had a car we were going to trade in, and we were not going to finance. We had X amount. So we walked in. We found the car that we wanted, and we walked in, and we're talking. You know, people are rushing to get to us as soon as we walk into the showroom. And the guy's going, oh, we don't even work on commission here. We don't even work. It's no big deal. I'm going, really? Because 9 of you just body tackled people to get to us. So I'm pretty sure that you're lying, right from the beginning, right in the first seconds. I'm pretty sure that you work on some sort of commission. So the second was, we sit down and we said, this is what we want. This is what we want to give, you know, this is what we want to give you cash. And this is what we want to give you in the car. And the guy says, absolutely. There's no way I can do this. I said, okay, well, we start to get up. Well, let me talk to my boss. Talk to my boss.
Yeah,
sure. So the boss comes back and he comes down a little bit. So now you've lied to me twice.
Right.
I've proved that you've lied to me twice. Right. So the boss says, I can't do that, but this is the absolute lowest that I can do. And I said, no, that's not what we want. And he goes, well, I can't do it. So we get out, we drive away, and here comes the sales guy running out. He'll do it. So my thought is, and I didn't want to be a jerk, but my thought is, I've caught you in 3 lies already. You've lied. I'm going to hand you a bunch of money, but I've already caught you in 3 lies. So you're talking about, you know, CEOs being unethical, and just it goes right straight down the path, because this guy lied to my face 3 times, but I never got to call him on it. When you wrote the book, when you wrote the Fries book, one thing that I respected, and it wasn't even respected, I just liked it. I liked the people that you worked with.
Sure.
You did, and I'm sure they did some goofy things, but I liked them. These were people that I would hang out with.
Yeah.
Now the managers and the bosses, you took the gloves off and you hit them between the eyes, and
Right.
that didn't bother me. But I did like these people. You got to look at the simple parts of life that the rest of us don't get to connect, like in the ice cream shop, the connection between the college girls and the beautiful people.
Right.
Can you go ahead and explain that, because I thought that was just genius.
Sure. Well, there are a few classifications of people that come into a ice cream shop, and it's the college girls, and they're giggling about, oh, I really shouldn't do this, but I studied so hard. I'm just gonna have a triple chocolate milkshake, right? And then there are the beautiful people, and I referred to them as the workout people, right? So they can come in and they can order whatever they want, right? These dudes with washboard abs and girls, you can play racquetball off their buns, and so they come in and there's no excuses, there's no nothing. Like, I ran 50 miles today.
I could eat this whole place if I wanted to.
Yes. And then there were the ear touchers, which were the horrible women that are going to have facelifts until their ears touch. And, they're so busy and
right.
And on the phone, I don't have 2 minutes, talking about, oh, my maid's assistant called in sick today. And let's see, the ones that I liked the most were what I referred to as the towel throwers, who've thrown in the towel and they're like, look, I'm overweight, I don't care.
Right.
Give me the triple Zappa Zupa with sprinkles on top, and
then one to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And right. And it was actually the college girls that were afraid to be around the towel throwers, because they were thinking of themselves, maybe that's a good idea. I can just eat whatever I want, and sure, I'll hit 400 pounds, but whatever.
Right.
So it was some interesting dynamics. I very much disliked the ear touchers. The college girls sort of drive you over the top. They're the ones that are sampling.
Yeah.
10,
what was it? 5,000 pinks?
5,000.
Is that the level? 5,000 pinks.
Pink spoons, and that is when you hate working. Yeah.
Now I mean, you're an older guy, so you did not fit the dynamic of these people. I mean, there must have been some resistance when you first got these jobs, but then also to be accepted as one of them. Did anyone question it? Did anyone, oh, you poor guy, you got to work here? Was there any resistance in accepting you as one of them?
No. The manager of the Burger Wop that I worked at, she was out of her mind when we were doing the interview, right? And she said, well, you want to apply for management? I was like, no, I just want a job. She said, oh, crew? I was like, yeah, my wife works at home, I need to get out of the house.
Right.
And she's like, oh, that's fine, you'll start tomorrow night as the cashier.
Right.
This was back in 2008, and the world was falling apart economically, and so there were a lot of 40. What was I then?
Really?
7-year-olds.
Yeah. Okay.
So no, I mean, most people just didn't really think about it.
Now, so this was 2008 when you did this, and the one thing that's obvious when you read the book is there's something missing. There's the cell phones are missing, and the text is missing, and all that technology is missing, because I was before it. Do you think if you did this today, that your experience would have been different because you would have had to deal with less chat? I mean, the one thing you say is you really didn't get to know your coworkers because you're in this box and they're in this box and you're flipping around. But would it have been less because when Tony's got a break, he's not talking to you, he's texting his girlfriend?
Yeah, absolutely. These minimum wage-ish jobs do not usually lend themselves to the kind of camaraderie, because there's not a lot of around the cooler talk.
Right.
I think if you work in the warehouse of Dunder Mifflin, then camaraderie does grow, because those are the guys, and you get to talk to them. Pizza store, you walk in, you get your pizzas, you go. Burger Whop, Burger Whop could run in entire silence. There's no need for correspondence except for the cashier talking to the customer. And yeah, with cell phones and Facebook and there were cell phones, but I'm trying to think, like, there was no GPS in 2008. So when you're delivering pizzas, there was a huge map, and you'd have to go back there and figure out where this place was and what route you were going to take. I got lost in some spooky places. It'd be good if the people in charge of this at least wandered into one of their chain stores.
Right.
People had never been to a Burger Whop. They'd never delivered a pizza. I mean, in the Burger Whop, the first thing they said was, if you're the cashier, develop your own style. Hey there. Good morning.
You're juggling.
Develop your own style and learn what smile looks best. I'm like,
right. Yeah. Wear a costume, use an accent. Yeah, anything that would work. One manager I honestly felt bad for was the ice cream guy.
Sure.
He just felt like this guy, he was just trapped. This is what I've got to do for the rest of my life. Was he really like that?
Yeah. He was a very kind guy. But it was one of those things where if you have an idea, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, if you have an idea for a business and it's bricksbymail.com, right? Your friends are going to say, that's a great idea. Wow, Everett, I bet that's going to go to the moon.
Right.
Instead of saying, Everett, you're insane. Listen to me. I beg of you.
Don't do this.
So this guy had the dream of owning an ice cream shop. Nobody talked him out of it. He put a significant amount of money into it. Like lots of people who open restaurants. And he probably hit 5,000 pink spoons and said, this dream sucks.
Right.
I need to get employees. Well, he didn't have, franchises. Everything is so exactly measured that it's impossible to skim. Like at the Burger Whop, if they messed up a burger, they had to throw it away. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the franchise didn't want them accidentally on purpose making a burger wrong and actually feeding themselves.
Right.
Or maybe taking the burger home to their child.
Right.
No, that had to be thrown out. So my ice cream shop owner, he didn't know whether I was giving someone a double scoop when they'd actually ordered one. And that had to be on his mind when he was home or doing whatever, working as a landscape laborer to try and cover the cost of the ice cream store. But he was a great guy, and but what do you do?
But what's interesting about what you just said is that you take that principle of an ice cream store, you should definitely do that. Now let's throw in social media. And now let's throw in any artistic thing you want to. So let's say I've decided that I want to be an artist and I drew a picture, or I've decided I want to be a poet, or I'm going to be a novelist, or I'm going to take up the ukulele, or I'm going to take up something that I've just decided. And what do you see? You, just like you said, oh my gosh, that's the great, that poetry that it brought tears to my eyes. That is the most, that stick figure on what I think is a horse is the most beautiful thing that I've ever done. I've ever seen in my life. Why are you wasting your time as an accountant? You need to be painting pictures.
Yes, absolutely.
And they're not doing it out of to be mean. They're doing it probably because they love us. Yeah. But it's that instant gratification. You go, why am I being an accountant? I could be a poet tomorrow. And there's so much danger in that.
I can't be a poet after work. I have to quit so I can focus on.
Oh yeah, you don't, because you have all that corporate stuff going on in your head, and you got. I shared with you when you and I were first corresponding. I shared with you that rejection letter I got from that producer. Remember that? And it took me aback because we've become so soft and gentle that I'm going, this is an actual mean rejection letter. I mean, it was cruel. This guy told me I had a narrow worldview, to not reach back to him until I wrote something worth reading. You know, I stopped at page 3. I mean, this was me, but because of all the years of you should be, you should do this, it took me aback. So what's the danger in you need to own an ice cream store, or because it's the same danger as you need to stop being an accountant and you need to focus on your poetry.
For every kid that dropped out of college to pursue their life as a musician, and they're busking on the street, and then the next thing you know, they're Jewel, or
right.
they're Sheryl Crow, right? There are a million people that have followed that stupid dream, and nobody said to them, the odds of you doing this are almost zero.
Right.
Parents who live through their kids and they're taking them on the traveling leagues, and they're asking the doctor when the kid gets hurt, when can they play?
Right.
I read an article by an ER doc who actually did the mathematics, and he said the chances of your kid playing professional baseball are 0.0001.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
And so, yeah, I think you don't follow your passion. You follow logic, and you do your passion on the side, and perhaps you end up a success.
Now, I'm going to say something mean, and you can tell me if I'm mean, but I'm hoping that you agree with me. But people don't say this. And I have a half a dozen friends right now that I'm wishing someday I have the nerve to tell them this. And it is, just because you love it doesn't mean you're any good at it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know people that have mortgaged their entire lives waiting for this break, when the truth is, when you go back and look at their reels or there's nothing there. Right. But they're in their 50s now, and they're, right. And everything, is counting on this. But we were told as a kid, do what you love, because if you love it, it'll happen. Well, just because you love it, I love eating Oreos. I'm very good at it. I think I'm probably fantastic at it. Doesn't mean I should do it. It just means I can do it. I'm good at it.
Right.
How do we first turn that onto ourselves, and then how do we not be a jerk and help others? Or maybe we can't. So
that's a great question. I recall, and I wrote about this in something, about the follow your dream thing, follow your passion. And Colonel Sanders, they love to talk about Colonel Sanders. He didn't become a success until he was 80. He failed and failed and failed and failed. And my response is, what a miserable life.
Yeah.
You become successful at 80. Well, so you spent your whole life pursuing and failing,
Right.
at some point, you got to get content with where you are. I would say that when you are 45, you are who you are going to be. Now, if you screw up along the way, and 45 may be the time when you rewire, as you so aptly have put, rewire yourself. But if you're a CPA at 45, you're going to be a CPA when you die. So, get happily used to the idea. I think a lot of us identify with what we once did, right? I haven't had any success in the publishing industry, but I secretly kind of sort of think of myself as a writer. What are you, a writer? A guy plays in a band in college. That'll sort of follow him through life. What are you? Well, I'm, to himself, I'm the lead singer in a band.
But what's funny is when we were in our 20s and even early 30s, we allowed ourselves to say, well, right now I'm working at Trowco, but I'm really a designer. We allowed, and we got away with it. We're talking to a girl at a bar. We go, well, right now I'm working at Dovatron, but I'm really a novelist. And at late 20s and 30s, we can do that. We don't do that at 45. No.
You start to get real with yourself, and people can't imagine being double their age. That's just right. When you're 20, 40 is infinity away. You're practically on death's door when you're 40. But if people can, youth is wasted on the young and wisdom is wasted on the old. And if people who know and have the ability to communicate can pass along these ideas. I go back to your concept of rewiring. If you can come out of college and absorb some of this wisdom from older people, think about how much better your life is going to be. What I found in my research for dispatches was that the happiest people are people over 70. And I believe that's because they've quit kidding themselves, right? I'm 70. I may die tomorrow. And so stupidity leaks out all your life, and finally contentment leaks in. And, I have friends whose, fathers are wealthy, or they've passed away and they were wealthy. They weren't driving fancy cars or going on fancy vacations. They were barbecuing next door because they'd wasted enough time in their life flying to St. Croix and not knowing anyone, and I think I think you do exactly what you're talking about, but then if you're a normal person, about 70, it sort of equals out, right? Your confidence and your achievements. Because, you've done what you're going to do, unless you're Colonel Sanders and you spent the last 50 years in misery, failing.
And what's funny is you were saying, I was thinking of my mom. My mom died a few years ago at 95. And you could have taken a deck of cards and put Cool Whip on it. And no matter how angry or upset or worried she was, if you brought something with Cool Whip on it, it just was, it was just like, here's your new car. Right. And I would love to do it. I put it on. We kept it all over our house because it was worth it to see the face of pure joy.
Right.
That there's a piece of cake with Cool Whip on the cake. Right. And it was just amazing to be able to be the deliverer of that joy.
Right. She knew what she liked, and eventually we all do, assuming, we don't drop dead of an aneurysm, but yeah, if you live out your life, you're finally going to figure out what matters, who matters, what makes you happy, what
Yep.
doesn't make you happy, which you're going to stay away from.
There's two things on the book I want to talk about. One is on the construction. You spent time as a construction helper,
Mhm.
and you were talking about how, you know, in the burger place and the other place, you really didn't get relationships, but with the construction, you should have been able to build some relationships, except there was always a new crew.
Right.
Right. So you didn't a chance to do anything to build relationships there either, did you?
No, because they're, you know, the concrete guys, like laying the slab, they're getting in and out as fast
Right.
as they can. Right. And when you're getting in and out as fast as you can, there's not a lot of time for idle chatter.
Right.
Then the framers, you know, then the sheetrock guys, and they are, the employees are working as hard and as diligently as they can.
Mm-hmm.
The problems all come from, you know, the general contractor, who again is looking you in the eye. And I'm sure I have a couple of friends that are damn good, honest contractors, but man, oh man, you shouldn't work with a contractor until you have 5 references.
Right.
And people get choked up just talking about the guy. They love him so much.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a very astute point. You know, they came and went, because there is no, my dad built this house with his own hands, right?
Right.
Where if you were a carpenter and you were helping him, you know, you were going to be together for this 6 months project. It is not the case the way it's
yeah. And what was interesting, and my son picked up on this too when we were talking about it, because he read the book as well, was when the Mexican guys came in, it was boom. I mean, they were just on it, and they were just nonstop. Yeah.
Unbelievable. And you know, it's funny. I have you know, this whole illegal immigration thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? The people we should really ask their opinion is in the Southwest, right? Where the problems are. Here in Charleston, South Carolina, there's nobility in our Mexican Hispanic population. I don't care if they're legal or illegal. There are 8 of them jammed into a house, and they work every minute of every year except Sunday. They're all Catholic. They go to the
Mhm.
Catholic Church. These guys aren't shooting people and robbing people. These are the most honorable men that I know.
Family units. Yep.
All 8 of them jammed in there, and they send home their weekly wages in cash, saving very little for themselves. So yeah, when they showed up, they were the Sheetrockers. I've never seen anything like it. Literally, I've never seen anything like it in my life. They just sheetrocked me if I'd have fallen asleep.
Yeah. The one that I want to wrap up talking about the book, and then I want to tell you this as a kudos, because it doesn't happen very often. You have to be a very clever writer to make me laugh out loud. If I'm reading a book and I have to stop and laugh out loud. I was listening to this book while driving, and I'm not making this up. I had to pull over. And I had to pull over, and I'll tell you what it is, and I hope I don't ruin it for anybody. I had to pull it over when you're doing the cowboy thing. And it was the deal that you and the other wrangler made, that you'd share your, and you just kept, oh no, I tracked some coyotes that were just, and it was funny, but it kept going. And then it kept going. Are you sure? Oh yeah, that one coyote's in heat. And he just spooned you along. And I literally had to pull over.
Well,
So to be able to make me laugh in person, you if you're a funny person, you'll make me laugh in person. But to make me laugh, just and I think if you had cut it, if it would have been a giggle, but it just kept going. You know, just like, oh no, I saw from his left paw that he's leaning to the left, and it was just I had to pull over.
truth is stranger than fiction, and if you listen to dialogue, right, of what people say around you, that's the great stuff,
Right.
And you come to understand who they are by what they say,
Right.
because we don't usually spend enough time with someone to see what they do. That's the true measure
Right.
of character. But yeah, that's one of the things I love about writing nonfiction is the ability to insert dialogue where it's just boom, 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 boom. As a novelist, I'm in awe of novelists. I don't know how y'all do what you do. You know, someone walks in and you'll describe the room, whereas as a nonfiction writer, I can just say he walked into the room and boom, into the point of why he walked into the room.
Mm-hmm.
A novelist, you'll see in your mind's eye a lot of things that a nonfiction writer doesn't see.
Yeah, and not to get off a task. What's my perspective to that is that's easier. That's easier than walking into a room and spending 50 pages describing the room, than when you have to take that into a screenplay form.
Oh yeah.
Because now that's harder, because now I have to make you know what the room is in the dialogue of the person in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little it's a little trickier. So I've tricked you because I want to have you back to discuss this when I finish it.
I'd love it.
But I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I'm a big fan, and kudos to you. I'm anxious to read this. Kudos, because like I said, those three things, you got to be funny, you got to be able to write funny, you got to have something to say, and you definitely have all three of those things.
Well, I
appreciate
the kind words.
Yeah, it was an honor to not only read you, but to be able to connect with you. And I thought Everett du Maurier was a mouthful, but Prioleau Alexander, you've got to be a writer. You have no choice. I think it's an important book. I think it's a very important book.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it, Everett.